pray for bad days. I ask for blessings, he sent them that way. I pray for dumb things, I'm one of the bad cave. I pray for myself, but I'm not that brave. So I pray for the good days, I pray for the bad days. I pray for my report card, like stay away bad grades. Go away bad vibes, I pray for my classmates. I pray that when they walk in, it won't be their last day. I had to write this knowing I ain't talked to God in a minute. Feeling depressed, trying to live up to this positive image. When in reality, everything develops from the negatives. Lord, give me strength, not to smack all these Confederates.
I pray for wisdom, I pray for weapons against the system. I pray for freedom to feed the victims, to heal the brain, no pain inflict them. I pray for real, I pray for real. I talk to God, then wait for real. Can't fake the fall, can't fake the feel. I pray for fun, I pray for real. I pray for y'all. I pray for real, I talk to God. I pray for y'all. I pray for y'all.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to CYA, Confessions of a Young Adult. I am your host, Cedric Carter, Minister Cedric Carter, with my co-host, my man Elijah Peterson. We have two guests with us today, Tyvery, and then to my right, we have Jay Joya. We are here today starting our new show, trying to come with some young adult energy, just with our passions, our visions, just to bring accountability and just our thoughts to the young adult community. With that, I'm going to allow my guest and my co-host to introduce themselves. First, I have my co-host Eli.
I am Eli, as he already said. I'm a young adult, a member of Rowlett Friendship. I joined about 4 years ago, and for me, it's been a life-changing experience of the church, because where I came from, the church was corrupt. It was a small church, but a corrupt church, and it turned my faith against the church. But coming here has opened my eyes a little bit, and I love being here. And I'm going to pass it to Miss Joya.
I'm Joy McKinley. I'm 20 years old, and I'm currently a college student, and I'm the pastor's daughter.
And to my left, last but not least, we have Ty.
Hi, my name is Tyvery. I am 22 years old, a recent college graduate. I'm not a member of Rowlett, but I'm a member of Prestonwood Baptist Church, which is in Plano, Texas. And I'm just here to discuss everything that's going on in our world, and just how we can see the craziness, but God is always in the midst of that, and so we're going to talk about that today.
And me, I am Cedric Carter again, Minister Cedric Carter. I am a young minister. Been walking with God in my ministry for about 5 years now, 5.5 years. I'm a single father. I'm 27 years old. I've learned a lot about life in this short time span, of course, because it made me grow up being a parent. And thankfully to my parents, they held me accountable and made me face things head on. As we go into that, our Bible verse for this show is Matthew 7:12. So in everything, do unto others as you will have them do unto you, for this sums up the law of the prophets. And that speaks volumes for itself for the times that we're in. Don't treat anyone outside of the way you want to be treated. If you want love, you have to give love. Anything that you want, you have to give in order for someone to give it back to you. But it doesn't always work out that way. As we see with the times that we're in right now, we went from COVID-19 to the quarantine, with everything going on with that. And then now we have the huge situation that started in Minneapolis with the George Floyd situation. And now we've gone to peaceful protesting, to the looting, the rioting, the police, it seems like a race war, or just everything that's going on. What are some of y'all thoughts with everything that's going on right now?
Well, first off, I'm from Minnesota, and I don't think y'all thought that there were black people there, but hopefully y'all see that Minnesota is not all roses and whatever. But yeah, man, life happens no matter where you are, man, and I hope people realize that you can be in the best neighborhood and you still have those bad people that are there. And to the whole Floyd situation, like you said, it's another racial issue, man. You sit on a man's neck for over 9 minutes. I don't know if you're expecting the man to breathe or what, but to me, it's capital murder, and that's the way they need to be ruled. Anybody else have an opinion?
Did you want to go first? Okay. No, yeah, I was going to say that it is unfortunate to see things like this happen in our nation. And it was so interesting because last night at my church, our pastor discussed everything that's going on right now. And the biggest question he asked about this was, is this a sign of the end times? And how we can wait well during all of this craziness. And he referenced Luke 21, verses 5 through 11. And in this verse, Jesus is just talking about the destruction of the temple, predicting that, and predicting the second coming of Jesus. And so just in these few verses, Jesus tells us to be cautious about the future. And he tells us different signs of there will be pestilence, there will be disease, people will rise up against each other, nations upon nations. But in that, like, what does it look like to wait well? And just watching the riots last night through all the major cities, just also thinking about how can the church come in a way that is such a representation of God that they cannot back down from that. And so I just wanted to ask you guys, what does it look like for y'all to wait well in situations like that?
It's not waiting in the silence. It's one thing to, like, I'm just going to sit back and observe, see what's going to happen. But taking upon that role as like a church, it looks bad on us. And it's like we have to be the ones to be like, that's wrong. And if we don't do that, and it's like, well, the church doesn't think it's wrong, then it's okay what this situation is going. It's okay for these men to die. So it's just taking that stance to be like, this is wrong, and this is why it's wrong. And so just coming out and just making a statement that says, we do not stand for this, and we want better.
So my opinion with all that is it's really an unfortunate set of circumstances. For me, it brings, I don't want to say anger, but a level of frustration, because it seems like only the black deaths of police officers make national news. And that's one thing that it seems like a trend that's been going on for many years with media outlets. And it makes me question, okay, like, what's the agenda here? How far are y'all willing to go? Of course, there's other crimes that go on, you know, in the United States, but not just in the United States, across the world. Why is it that when they feel they have something that they can tag along to, they make it such a big deal? Not that it isn't a big deal, but they take that agenda and furthermore and make it into so many different things, where it's, you know, the black on black crime, the police versus the civilians, you know, just everything that's going on with that. So it makes me question, you know, those who are at the top, not just our president, but those who own those media outlets and stuff like that. It makes me question, are y'all wanting a war? What is it that y'all are trying to get out of everything that's going on? And I feel like we'll never get to that place, but for me, it's a level of frustration because I have a child. I have a 5-year-old, and he's mixed, but he is the darker skin. And it makes me question, you know, if I was to be in a situation like this, how would I, you know, just being honest, I mean, I'm a young man, and I was to see my son or a family member go through something like that. Just to be honest, I feel like all the minister, the, holier than thou, all that stuff would quickly go out the door because I would most likely respond with anger and vigilance and stuff like that. And you see with everything that's going on, another thing that slipped under the table that I wanted to talk about is the COVID-19, how that was such a big thing that was going on. And now since the George Floyd situation, it seems like social distancing has stopped. I mean, I know, businesses have opened up to 25 to 50% capacity. I believe some states are still under a lockdown. But what are some of y'all's feelings with the situation that's going on and how COVID-19 has seemed to just kind of fade away in a transitional period?
I think how media plays is like, media always is looking for the next big thing. And I feel like for so many months, it's always been COVID-19, COVID-19, how many cases we have. So when the time finally came for something big and new, they're like, let's run with it, let's go. So I feel like once George Floyd came, like that topic came up, they're like, run it. And so that's what you see, all we talk about is the riots, the people looting, like Target burning down, because we've been like craving for something new. And so it sucks that it took like this man's life to become a new trend or something for the media. And I feel like going back to what you said, it's like, what's their agenda? And I feel like they made their agenda clear because it's like the situation is one thing, but they flipped the script. It's like, oh, he was a thug. He was like had a criminal background. And it's just like, it's like they're reaching for something more. And I feel like it's always been like that.
Yeah, that's true. My take on it is I don't think COVID has necessarily gone out the window. It's on the back burner, but I think it all ties together as in the built-up frustration. People have been locked down for 3 months, and they just been wanting to get out. So now that they're out, they're just going crazy. You lock down a young adult for 3 months, man. Once we get out, it's going to be young adults going wild out there, man. So that's basically what we've seen, man. People are getting out for the first time, and I don't know about y'all, but if y'all see a Foot Locker that's been raided and there's some new kicks in there, I'm going in, man. Christian or not, I'm going in to get some free kicks, you know what I'm saying? I'm still a young adult at the end of the day. I want me some free kicks.
So what are some of your thoughts, Ty?
Well, I think just looking at the COVID-19 crisis and these riots, because this definitely is not the first riot that's happened in the nation's history over not just killing of a black man, but killing of anyone in wrongful death.
Yeah.
But I think the number one issue is there is a lack of the fear of God in this nation. There is a lack of unity in this nation. There is a lack of just plain Christianity and prayer. And I believe as the church right now, we should come together, not just black church and black church, but black churches coming together with white churches, with Hispanic churches, with Korean churches, and just really pushing our name out there. And so that people who may not be believers, who kind of tie themselves into, they believe that this is a race war, looking at the church and saying, wow, they have such unity among different ethnicities, like how could that be? And just believing that and remembering that the one thing that ties us together as Christians is that we believe that Jesus' death, burial, resurrection saves us, and that's the only thing that could save us.
I agree with that to the utmost, because I feel like it's our time to stand up and try to bring unity to its purest form. There's so much separation between the black, the white, the Hispanics, the Chinese, the Koreans. It's one of those things where you have to try to find a balance, but with everything that's going on for hundreds of years, it seems like balance is nowhere near us. And how can we even get in on the road to even find balance when we're living in a time where injustice seems to be, the thing that goes on day in and day out. And like I said, now of course there's other crimes that go on with police and white people, or police and Hispanics, or in police with black people. But it's one of those things where it seems like the uproar comes when it's simply the black man getting killed by the police, which is perfectly fine. But going back to what I said before, like, what is the agenda of the media? And it's like, I feel like martial law is on the way. I feel like there's so many things that's hidden. And I feel like the church, our leaders, need to stand up and address what's really going on and how we're living in the end times, as you spoke about. How in the book of Revelations and all that speaks about how times change. And it feels like we're going through a mental shift where people really just don't care anymore. You know what I mean? There's no standards. There's no morale with how we do things and how we want people to see us and to perceive us, not only as Christians, but just people in general. You know, we all have, you know, loved ones that have died to unforeseen circumstances, with death being the end of it. But how can we even get to a balance if there's no questions that have to be asked? And not only with that, we're not even getting answers from our leader, starting from our president, then from the president on down. It seems like they're just adding more logs to the fire and not even, you know, giving us a solution or even probability to even get to anything. And you know, I don't want us to, you know, stretch that conversation out too long, but with the COVID-19, since we're already on it, do y'all feel like that cheated the 2020 graduates? You know, is some of them that's out there that's riding, you know, they could be feeling some type of anger, animosity towards, you know, just life in general. Do y'all feel like that could be a thing, that's another thing that's going on right now? Some of the graduates that they feel anger, sad, depression because they didn't get, you know, some of the things that we got walking across the stage. And I know some high schools, you know, have made situations fit, whether it was virtual or they did it somewhere that was safe. How do y'all feel about, you know, the pandemic and it cheating somewhat the 2020 graduates?
I'm gonna let the recent graduee over here go first.
I just feel like since pre-K, all you've been thinking about is the day I graduate from high school. And so that's what you're constantly working towards. And to have that stripped away from you, like for something like you have no control over it. It was just like, someone was like, oh, you can't walk across the stage. I know you worked so hard. You put in so many hours, so many times crying over homework, but you cannot walk across the stage. And I feel like for some people that's very like, it's like, wow, then what does my work go towards to, you know? Mm-hmm. And it sucks for people who had speeches, who had the job of praying, and who worked hard for the top 10%. So it's just like, it's heartbreaking because they're never going to have that moment. And that's such a special moment I feel like everybody deserves.
I think whenever talking about like the pandemic cheating on the 2020 graduates, I try to look at it through like kind of a spiritual lens of, okay, the pandemic just didn't cheat necessarily graduations, but because of this, a lot of people are out of their jobs. A lot of people's routines as a whole have changed. And this affected the church in such a great way. And I believe that when things like this happen in our life, either one, God is trying to tell us something to bring us either closer to Him, or two, there is prophecy in the Bible that we are supposed to look at, that God is saying, hey, be reminded of this prophecy that He goes into in Acts 2:14 through 21, based on the prophecy of Joel, when Joel prophesies the coming of Jesus and what everything is going to look like, kind of going back to the George Floyd situation. Mm-hmm. But with that being said, you know, it is a sad thing where a lot of the graduates who have worked hard and some have made valedictorians and salutatorians cannot walk across the stage. But in the midst of that, it's kind of going back and thinking, well, like, I've planned everything in my life, and in the blink of an eye, it was gone. But ultimately, as Christians, we know that we cannot plan things because God ultimately has the bigger plan. And whenever you are a Christian, that is great news.
We have a comment from Amaya Green. She says, I think everything happens for a reason. So even though this is a sad time for some, the reason for these hard times will be revealed later.
And to go off of that, is there a certain sense of expectation with the revelation that comes from what you're asking? I think everyone has a premeditated sense of how they want something to be revealed to them. And when it doesn't happen in the sense of how they feel they deserve it to be revealed to them, it causes confusion and conflict. And I say to that, always be ready for the unexpected. I feel like through time, you know, things are revealed in so many different ways, and it can bring different emotions out of you. And if you weren't prepared for, you know, said situation, then it can cause an unbalance to, you know, what you're trying to get out of the situation. And when you're not prepared for the unexpected, then you react in any type of manner. And with that, I say, I agree, but make sure you're ready to be revealed what you want ready to have revealed to you. And when you have that state of mind, you can allow things to flow more easily through you mentally, spiritually, as you walk through your faith with God and allow things to happen in its perfect order. And I believe everything does happen for a reason. It's unfortunate that death comes with the reasoning and it's part of the equation, but everything adds up, and unfortunately things have to subtract when you're adding things up, when you're walking in this thing called life.
That's a good point, Carter. To pick back up on the graduates, for me, I want to piggyback on what she said about the economic view. For some of them, they lost so many jobs, and for some of them, a lot of family reunions were canceled, marriages were canceled, having kids canceled. So like she said, the lifestyle. When you change a lifestyle, man, it's hard to get back on track. And getting back off track means falling from God. And when you fall from God, man, you just got to have faith that He can bring you through the tough times, as Amaya Green was saying. So just have faith that you can get through. And we have a comment that says 4 to break. From who? 4:30. Oh, okay. Never mind. That was a mistake.
I think going over with Maya Green, I think in like school and like in life, people are always like, oh, have a plan. Like make sure you have a 5-year plan. Make sure you know what you're going to do for the next 3 weeks of your life. And so like I feel like from a young age, we're always taught to like think ahead, think of your future. And so to think of a Christian standpoint, it's like we can have those plans, but God's going to be like, but that's not the plan for you. And so I feel like we have to be in constant communication with God and be like, God, am I doing this for me or am I doing this for you? Am I following your steps or am I being like selfish? So I feel like in constant communication with God and like asking Him questions like, God, if I want this job, is this for me? If it's not, take it away. And I feel like that has to be a daily prayer in order to be like on the same wavelength as God, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree with that. And so we don't miss over the COVID-19, not many people know that you're studying in the medical field and stuff like that, Ty. What are some suggestions as to what's going on right now you feel could help on a day-to-day basis, whether it comes to sanitizing correctly or stuff like that? How has it changed for you being in the medical, field studying? What are some of the things that they, try to tell y'all to do?
Yeah, so kind of when the crisis first broke out, I work at Baylor Hospital in Forney in downtown Dallas. And at first, no one really knew what was going on, and this is where I was talking about the unexpected and just fear wreaking everyone, especially in the medical community. But this virus is new, and when there comes a new virus, there has to be years and years of study just to put out a vaccine. So, I mean, most of the information that you're probably getting from either just watching the news or looking at medical journals, it could change because science is always evolving. And whenever you find like a new bacteria or a new infection or new strains, that information will change, and how we go about our daily living will also change. And just like a quick thing to say is why the death rate looks so bad in different states. It's kind of how first the virus came into the United States. I read this medical journal from Johns Hopkins University, and it stated that the reason why it's so bad in California and New York was because of the people who came in there that had the virus. So in California, it was 100 people that had the virus in them, and they didn't know because they could have been asymptomatic, not showing symptoms. And so from there, they multiplied the virus. In New York, there was about 50 people that had it. And so that's why in Texas, it's not as bad. Of course, you know, there are deaths with any type of virus, but in Texas, it's not as bad because we didn't have a lot of people that kind of hosted the virus in their bodies.
Well, that's great information. And I want to leave with this before we go into our first break. I want to read Romans 12 and 19 with everything that's going on, just to give some hope to those who are lacking faith and not believing as strong as they once did. Romans 12:19 reads, "Dearly beloved, avenge not yourselves, but rather give place unto wrath. For it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, says the Lord." And I just want to say to you all, God is not through. He's going to make his footprint, he's going to make his spirit felt throughout the United States. Vengeance is going to come. Now, how it happens, we don't know. But when it happens, I promise you, whether you are a believer or not, you will feel his presence day in and day out. And I just want to leave with that.
Today at our 10 a.m. service, we will recognize our graduates and students. Please tune in and support our RFBC children and youth as we celebrate their accomplishments for the 2019-2020 school year. The next food pantry will be on Saturday, June 13th. If you know of anyone that might need assistance, please ask them to complete the form on our website at least one day prior to the distribution date. We also need volunteers. You can volunteer Friday, June 12th, anytime from 12:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. for sorting, and or on Saturday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Just show up. Thank you in advance. RFBC Facebook Watch Party. If you have Facebook, please host a watch party of our Sunday service. Thank you so much for listening in this far. We love that you are here with us. Do us a solid and tap the thumbs up button on wherever you're getting this feed from. And please subscribe so you don't fall behind on the weekly content we'll be delivering from right here at Rowlett Friendship Baptist Church.
All right, and welcome back to CYA. We are going to play a game, or kind of a segment. I kind of wanted to get this in before the break, but it's all right because I want to have some crowd interaction. But it's okay. The first episode, we will give y'all an example of what this segment is so that further on, y'all can join in with us. So this is called Spill the Beans. We're each going to take about 30 seconds to confess maybe a sin that you went through, or something, a hard time that you went through this week or recently that just had your back against the wall, or may I say. I'll go first just to give y'all a good idea.
All right.
We're bringing beanbags back. So my spill the beans is, at least I'm gonna say this: every day I think about murdering my son and my dogs, man. I know that's kind of deep, but God said if it's in your mind, you might as well do it. It's a sin to think. So it might as well be an
You
action.
ain't spilled the beans, boy.
Hey, I'm spilling the beans,
spilled
man.
some
I'm spilling
else.
coffee beans, the pinto beans, all the beans,
Ain't no
man.
beans right
I
there.
know all of y'all think about when y'all kids bad, man. Y'all think about killing them. Y'all think about whooping them.
We need prayer and consecration right now.
Man, I'm passing the bean back to you since y'all think I'm just not Christian like.
Talk to somebody.
I do. I need to talk to Jesus, man.
Well, my spill the beans. Well, I'll talk about this. So, like I said, I'm a single father. Of course, I'm not married. So, having a child out of wedlock, I had just accepted my calling into the ministry. So, one thing I always worried about was being judged. Not only that, I am a preacher's kid. My father was a pastor shortly then, but he was a longtime minister before he passed away. Then I come from a family full of preachers and pastors. So my beans was, I always worry about how people are going to judge me or look at me, through that situation, having a child out of wedlock, not being married and not doing it the quote unquote Christian way. But hey, we young, things happen and we make mistakes. But it's one of the greatest things that's ever happened to me because it made me grow up a lot faster, and my parents held me accountable and told me I ain't the baby no more.
Yeah.
I'm gonna treat you like a grown man, and you need to get a job, and you need to do what you have to do to make things happen. And I'm gonna pass the beans to you.
So I would say for me, a lot I struggle with perfectionism. Applying to medical school, it just seems like you have to have the perfect grades, have the perfect recommendation letters, the perfect volunteering, and even being a Christian and being a missionary, it seems that people are always looking at me, saying that, oh, that's not necessarily Christian behavior. But just looking at how powerful the gospel is and looking at the why Jesus did die on the cross for all of us is when he was nailed to that cross, he nailed not only our sins, but our imperfections. And it's through Jesus where I can say, you know what, it's okay that I'm not perfect. There are days where I wake up and I may not want to spend my quiet time with God.
Yeah.
There are days where sometimes I get in an argument with someone and I do not actually have that discussion with them in the love of Christ. But at the end of the day, it's really important to just go back to Jesus and say, God, like here I am, I confess my sins, and I know that I am imperfect, but I'm perfect in you. Don't want to throw this over here. This is Joy.
I was ready. I think mine are just my beans. I struggle with my anxiety and being really anxious, and I think what stems from that is I feel like I always need to be in control of things, and when I'm not in control of things, I'm like I don't know the outcome, I don't know what's going to happen, and I just go off the rails. I'm just I need to know, and it's just if that's not my place to know everything that's going to happen to my life, and so my prayers is just be God, please, I know you have it, so just let me follow your way, and I know that will relieve my stress and my anxiety. But I just feel that's just me. I have to know what's going on, and so just letting go of the reins and giving it to God, and not after 5 minutes trying to take back the reins because I feel it's not happening my way. It's to completely give it all to Him, and just stay it that way, keep it. So.
That's some good beans, man.
It is. Do you wanna leave with any remarks on the positive?
I actually
stuff?
have a question for you, my man.
Okay.
You kind of talked about your son a lot, man. For me, I had a son at a very young age too. I actually had my first son when I was 14, so I kind of had to grow up quicker than others, as you did. For you, man, was it tough letting go of that past life, or was it easy? Was it a quick transition, or did it take years?
That's a great question. Man, that is a great question. It's never easy. Change is never easy, especially when another life is involved. But thankfully, I had great parents. I was blessed with great parents that always stayed on me. And I had a great example from my father, how to be a father, how to love, but not only love, how to be disciplined, and not only with discipline, just how to be a family man. I was blessed enough to not only have someone say it to me, but I could see it as I was growing up. So it's almost one of those things where you do as you see.
Yeah.
So with my son, I just did what my father did with me. Try to be as patient as I can, try to be understanding. I try not to be quick to discipline my son,
Yeah.
because I want him to understand that his emotions are important. So for me, I'm a very patient person already. That came with me naturally. But I mean, of course, sometimes with a kid, they can really like push your buttons, and you can just snap at the
that's that
snap of
murderer's
a
mind I
finger.
was talking about. Man.
But for me, it wasn't that quick of a transition. For me, I just kind of already had the blueprint on how to somewhat be a father, and it allowed things to somewhat go over, the transition to go over a little smooth. And we have a comment from Anton Smith. Does all of the things that are going on, the coronavirus, the George Floyd situation, etc., does it shake your faith? Do you ever think, God, where are you? Man, do you ever think, God, where are you? I promise you. I'm a minister. My faith is strong, but I'm going to be just 100% honest. It's some things that go on in this world, and I'll be quick to ask, like, so you just going to let this happen?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I know you can't intervene in the sense of you can just keep coming down from your throne and where you are in heaven and intervene on the earthly realm. Now, he could if he wanted to.
Yeah.
But then it almost allows us to be lackadaisical with our faith if we know every time something's about to happen, or if we do something that's traumatic, God just going to come down and just fix the situation. And then he's going to be like, I'm out of here until the next situation happens, you know? And I think that's a great question, and I want y'all to, give some feedback off that comment as well.
I think with the it's not the first time. This is a recurring event that's happened since the 60s, I feel like. And so it's kind of just like, God, like, you keep bringing this up. Like, is there a meaning? Is there a reason why this keeps happening? And it's just like asking the right questions. It's like, God, I know you're here, but like, this is a steady thing. Like, why are we happening? Why are people dying? Like, it's just like, I don't know. It's just like the right questions need to be asked. Like, God, like, is there a reason why this event keeps happening? And usually when you watch movies or you're reading a book and they keep talking about the same thing over and over, there's a reason why. There's an importance behind that. And so just asking God, like, you have a reason for everything. And so just wait, be patient into that and to see what his answer is.
Yeah, I think for me it doesn't shake my faith because I always think back to the time where I cried out to God and I was in a really big situation and he came and delivered me from that situation. So I think as believers we should always have that moment like captured in our minds of always believing the goodness and faithfulness of Jesus. And then the second question that she asked, do we think that God has left us? Is he there? And then the second thing I think about is going back to God's word of, well, what did he tell us through his apostles Paul, through his prophets of what we can expect? And God did say that we must persevere. We're going to go through bad things, and we're going to go through persecution for our faith. And persecution could look different in many different ways. And third, I think that because of everything that's going on in the world is because of ultimately sin. When sin entered the world, it brought evilness, it brought destruction. And the only way out of that is through Jesus Christ and when Christ comes back in. So I think just remembering those three things are really important.
Yeah, for me, no, it didn't touch my faith. I think it's just Jesus in a sense letting the people know that he is still here. Rather, he has to talk to us through destruction or talk to us through blessings. Some people just need to be reached in a different way. And I think as a people, the best way to reach us is through turmoil, through hard times. And that's the only way for us to turn to God, it seems like, because when things are good, we're not looking for God, we're not looking to pray, we're not looking for none of that.
We live in our
So when we in our hard times, that's when we need God the most. And I just think that's what it is.
Okay. And so going to our next topic, what should the behavior of a Christian look like? Are there challenges that each one of us face? What are some things we can do to exercise great Christian behavior? Of course, we're human and we sin and we lack in some areas. Yours might be different than mine. Yeah. But in your opinion, what can be some authentic ways we can show the Christian life as a young adult? What are some of the things y'all feel like can be done? If they aren't being done, what are some ideas that can be laid out on the table to help those who are struggling with faith and so many other things?
I was gonna pass it to the pre-K. You even got a preacher's kid on the stage already.
I think being your authentic self. I think putting on a mask every morning and trying to prove to people that you're this perfect person is not doing anything for anybody.
Yeah.
Because if we're supposed to be Christians, we're not supposed to be like everybody else. There's supposed to be something different about us. But if we can show people like, I do have flaws. I am like a flawed person. But the difference between us is that I look to God to give me my strength. And I think for me personally, I struggle with like anger issues, and I have a smart mouth, and I'm very quick to like go.
Quite intriguing.
I'm very quick to do that, and it's like it's okay to have anger, but it's not okay to act in anger. And so to show that sometimes I do mess up, I'm like, Lord forgive me, that I shouldn't have said that. And so just showing like we can look this like showing that there's a difference between us, even though that we both have our flaws.
So I have a question for you. So you said you struggle with anxiety, and you feel like you have to be in control of certain things. Is that something that adds with what you just spoke on, with how sometimes you have anger issues or how you respond to certain things? Do you think those two things have a correlation to why you respond to said situation or whatever?
I never really thought about it, but now that you say it, it's like, yeah, it does. Because I feel like when I'm very passionate about my views, and I'm very passionate about what I believe in. And so I feel like when somebody like tests that or goes against that, I'm like, but you're wrong. And it makes me like upset, but it's like, it's okay to have different opinions. Like that's what makes us like human. And so, but I feel like I get so upset because I'm like, you need to believe what I believe in. And that's not the mindset that we should have.
Yeah.
Of course.
And you said the key word there. You talk to God through your bad times. And I think that's the key point to being a Christian is it's not that you do bad, it's acknowledging that you did bad and going to Jesus about your bad and asking for forgiveness. And for me, that's just what a Christian means. And I do have a question about Christianity. To you, do you think Christianity is more of a religion, or is it just a believer in Christ?
That's a great question. I could say I can only speak for myself because I'm only Cedric Carter, and I have my own point of views and feelings about certain things. But if you look at it as just a religion, that's okay. If you look at it as what was the other one he said? He said
a believer in Christ.
A belief in Christ. That's okay as long as your foundation is built on the principles of what God has laid for us through the Ten Commandments, through just examples throughout the Bible. As long as your foundations are built on that, then I feel like it's okay to have, which you could go either way with it. For me, it's a lifestyle. Yeah. I'm not perfect. I know, there's many examples with Paul. He wasn't perfect. There's many examples in the Bible where people weren't perfect. So if we can take that same mindset and realize that even in the Bible there weren't perfect people, we aren't going to be perfect as well, but one thing that God does day in and day out through our history, he allows people to make their mistakes, but he also helps change them and mold them into what they were meant to be.
Yeah.
And with those things that they go through, it only helps you become whatever it is God wants you to be. So to answer your question, it's okay to think it's a religion, to think it's a lifestyle, or to think it's the other one you said. As long as your foundation is built on solid, Christian principles, then it's okay to have whatever view that you have. In all honesty, that's my opinion. For me, I know I'm not perfect. I'll never be perfect, no matter how hard I try. There's something like, I should have said this on Spill the Beans. So just earlier this week, I'm at a turn light and I'm about to make a U-turn, and I have the right of way, but of course, someone is coming on the opposite side and just decides to go, and I realized shortly, like, the fuse went off in me, like, for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And then I speed up just to look at the person like, yo, like, what's going on? Like, you could have hit me. And then there's this interaction. I ended up getting flicked off. I didn't flick her back off, but I will say there was some choice words that I did ask God for forgiveness for. So it's one of those things where if you just allow God to mold you and perfect you in the way he sees fit for you, and it goes back to that thing, everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
Your downfall isn't a downfall for a reason. It's only a downfall because when you fall, you have to get back up. The only way you can stay down is if you let yourself stay down, or you die because you have to lay down when you die, But if you're given the opportunity of breath and life, then getting back up is the only way to go with it.
Yeah, I would just like to say something on that. I see like your point, but I kind of disagree with you, and I'll just like kind of say why. I think that Christianity is more than a religion. I think it's a relationship with Jesus. And if you look at other religions out there, Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam, I mean, those are all religions, right? Christianity is like a religion. But how can we differentiate ourselves as followers of Jesus from them? Well, the biggest thing is that we have a direct relationship. We get the opportunity with the creator of the world. And these other religions, they don't have that relationship with their creator because they feel that they are too sinful, that they are not holy enough to be in his presence. Like I see your point.
Well, and I actually agree with what you said, but Muslims have the way they walk with their faith. I have Muslim friends, and the way they speak of Allah or their creator, they have a very personal relationship when it comes to meditation or when it comes to fasting and stuff like that. So I feel like just to add on, not to take anything away from what you said, but to add on to that, I feel like there's many ways to express your walk with God or whoever you deem as the creator. Now for us, of course, is God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and we walk in one line with all three. But that is a great point that you said, and I don't disagree with that. I feel like everybody has their own opinions and views, and as long as it all correlates to the same thing, then everything's okay. And with that, I think another thing with Christians, like you said, I feel like we mask too many things. And I feel like with that, a lot of people walk around angry, with depression, with so many things because they feel like they can't be themselves. And until you learn to be yourself, you're going to always walk that thin line of, do I really want to be myself, or do I want to continue to mask what it is that I go through on a day-to-day basis? It's one of those things where, you find yourself in so many situations, and until you learn to automatically, when something happens, Lord, forgive me. Lord, I need you right now. I'm crying out to you. Many people don't automatically respond that way. Most people respond in a manner of, I can do it myself. I've been doing it myself, so I might as well keep on doing it. But they end up getting the same results over and over and over again. And I think it's one of those things where if we don't allow God to, use his power in the way he uses it, then we're just going to continue to keep going through the same cycle over and over and over again. We have a comment from Bree Green. It says, T.I., well, I'm guessing Ty is what they meant to say. Or, okay, T.I., the rapper, said that religion is fake. Look at Kanye West, Sunday service, etc.
Hold on now.
Wait.
Kanye West is authentic. Come on now, don't go for Kanye.
Okay, let me finish the comment. Where people use Christ and believers to make money, does that also represent religion? This is what non-believers see. Oh, that's a lot. So let me read that again. T.I. said that religion is fake. Look at Kanye West, Sunday service, etc. Where people use Christ and believers to make money. Does that also represent religion? This is what non-believers say. So I'll go off.
Yeah, you go ahead.
The religion is fake. That's his opinion. T.I. has his own history. I'm not even going to focus on his criminal past because we all have a past. Mm-hmm. We all have walked down the wrong road. But if that's what he feels, then I would ask him, what does he believe then? And does his belief have a strong foundation on whatever it is that he believes in? If you believe it's fake, then why do you believe it's fake? Yeah. And don't just tell me your opinions or your emotions. Give me facts behind why you feel like it's fake, I feel like one of those things goes back to, okay, well, let's get to the facts. And if you don't have facts to support your argument, then all you're doing is speaking out of emotion and out of vitriol or whatever it is that you've gone through. But if you can give me facts, then we can have a conversation, but don't think your belief is going to change my belief. Another thing, too, where people use Christ and believers to make money, everything in this world is revolved around money. Church takes tithes and offering. Businesses run off of money. If you want to come and see a performance, regardless if it's a Christian artist or it's an R&B or anything, you spend money. So I ask you, do you feel like what they sing and stuff, do you feel like that's fake as well? They make money off of that as well. Like, which angle are you willing to go to? And how far are you willing to go down that road when it comes to the believers to make money aspect out of it? Because I feel like you're not only targeting just one thing. I feel like it's more of a personal stance you have with whatever you believe instead of it being just a subjective, opinion or whatever.
Yeah, man. You kind of already said the Kanye West thing, man. I look at more of the message that he's bringing to the people who are purchasing those tickets versus just purchasing of the tickets. Whether or not they paying for the show or whatever, they're still going to hear the gospel. They're still going to hear Jesus. So that's just the main point for me. I think selling the tickets is wrong, but at the same time, you bringing people to Jesus. And that's just what I focus on more. Because if you look back at what Kanye West used to be and what he is now, I would pay for what he's doing now before I pay for what he did back then. So for me, it's okay.
And we have another comment, and I'll let one of y'all, comment on one of this, Ty or Joya. We have from Alton McKinley. We have
that's pastor, y'all.
We have fake people in all walks of life, but threw everything out because of a few fake people. If that is the case, we will live in doubt of everything. How do y'all feel about that comment? Y'all want me to read it again?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. We have fake people in all walks of life, but don't throw everything out because of a few fake people. if that is the case, we will live in doubt of everything that goes on in our life. How do y'all feel about that comment? What are some of y'all's opinions?
I think going back to going back to the first statement, it's when he said religion is fake because of people making money, and it's right, because in order to have an argument, you need to have a logical, fact-based argument. You can't just speak, oh, I think that we didn't walk on the moon, so we didn't walk, it's fake. Yeah. It's like you need to have more substance to back that up, and I feel like just to say a blanket statement doesn't help you. And so just to say that, oh, he does this, so that means everyone's fake. No, that's not what Christianity stands for. Yeah. Like, if you know what Christianity stands for, you know what church is about, then you could have a concept like, oh, like this is right, this is wrong. And so I just make a logical statement.
And we have another comment from. Would you like to read this comment?
Yes, I'll read this comment from my mom, Barbara Taylor. She asked, Ivory, when you studied in Egypt and helped plant a church there, how did you see the Muslims interact with their God?
It's a great question.
Yes. So for a lot of people that don't know, I spent a year living in Cairo, Egypt with 6 of my closest friends, and we studied Arabic, and we ministered primarily to the Sudanese refugees there. And we taught English, and that was kind of like our access point to share the gospel with them. But how they interact with their God, which is something, whenever you're studying Islam and Christianity, and whenever you are witnessing to Muslims, they always say first you start with the similarities and then you go into the differences. So God, we all serve God, but their God is very different from our God. They see their God as a God of anger, as a God of wrath, and also a God of capriciousness, which basically just means that at the end of time, if they've done all these good works, and God can change his mind and say, you know what, I don't think that was still good enough, so you're still, unfortunately, going to go to hell. Whereas our God is gracious, he is merciful, he gives us things that we do not deserve. And so Muslims interacted with their God as more distant. They would just pray out of obligation, not just because that they really wanted to in their hearts. Whereas we have a longing and a yearning to know God, because we know that we can actually have a direct relationship with him. And we know that it's not based on anything that we do, anything that we say, but what is in our hearts. And this is kind of going way back in the conversation, but talking about the George Floyd situation and dealing with racism, just want to say a quick point on this, is whenever me and my friends were in Egypt, it was me and another black girl that went, and we looked so closely like the refugees that we were ministering to, that the Egyptians there treated us like them. And the Egyptians and Sudanese people do not get along. They do not like the Sudanese people because of their dark skin complexion. And so it was kind of like a real big lesson for me is how to love people well even when they don't love you. Even when they spit in your face. Literally, they ripped off our clothes. Wow. They spit in our faces. And we got so upset, and we went to our head missionary and we said, can you please tell us like why we should endure this? And I said, like, I hated those people. And that was the first time where I actually felt hate in my heart. And she looked at me and she said, Tybree, you cannot expect people that are children of darkness to act like children of light. And that is just the key of all these riots and all these people that treat people based on whether their skin color or what they do wrong. As believers, we can expect them to treat us nice. We can expect them to treat us with respect. But as a believer, we are supposed to love them. And that's how ultimately we're set apart from everyone else.
That's
wow.
That's a great, that's a lot, but that is a great standpoint, and I think it's pretty cool that you got to experience something in Egypt and stuff like that, and it's unfortunate that, you know, you got spat on or you went through those circumstances, but what your missionary said was that's a great thing. And I feel like a lot of people should really lean on that simple thing that you said. And with our show, you know, coming down to an end, one thing I want to say, I want to read to you 1 John 1:9. If we confess our sins, he is faithful and just to forgive us our sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. And I want to leave with that today because it's one of those things, if we confess with our mouths but believe in our heart that, you know, God will forgive us, but not only that, we have to make change. We have to believe that if we're going to confess, we're going to take action personally and do things that we need to do in order to walk the great Christian life. And that's all we have today with CYA, Confessions of a Young Adult. We have many more shows to come. It is your host again, Cedric Carter, and my guy, Elijah Peters.
To free the victims, to heal the brain, no pain inflict them. I pray for real, I pray for real. I talk to God, then wait for real. Can't fake the fun, can't fake the feel. I pray for fun.